Hello everyone. Welcome back. I am Jordan Jones, also known as the Golden Warrior. So, I just got done hanging out with a really good friend of mine, and we were talking about divine truth and love, and always working on our emotional processing and our feels. We always like to call it the feels. My boys back home in Indiana, we call it MAUFism, MAUF speak. And what MAUFism is mankind's ascending universal form. That's what a MAUF is. So we categorize, and it grew up out of childhood innocence, but everybody in our eyes is a MAUF. So how do you define your MAUF? How do you work on your MAUF? You could equate it to like a parallel of the soul, but it's not representative of the soul. The soul is still something else, but MAUF can reside within the soul. The continual progression of growth, the fact that you're aiming for continual progression, not meeting perfection, because at the absolute form of perfection is imperfection, because it doesn't continue to be perfect. It will cease to be perfect if you hit perfection, because then it's saying there's no more growing that can be done. Right now I'm traveling through some beautiful scenery of California that I have not traveled through before. In a way, it's weird. I'm going up north a little bit to kind of finagle my way around to go back down south towards the South Bay where I reside, and I'm seeing some really nice topography, cliff edges and such. Like, I don't know if you can check this out. Like, that's gorgeous. That's be gorgeous there. That's what that is. So don't do this at home, kids. So like, things have started out this year kind of up and down, and I believe for me, and what I've come to experience is that truth kind of shows and shines through the more and more that I really sit and reflect on my emotions and try to connect with my emotions, try to connect with my feeling, try to connect with God, like try to just connect. It's important that you don't cut yourself off from it. I've been lucky that I grew up in a very open-minded, receptive family of creative growth. There's a lot of artists in my family. Non working for the last 30 years as far as artistry is concerned, but then art within itself, right? Checking where the exit ramp is. Let's see here. Oh, where the entrance ramp. Boom. Smabifkin, found it. And so, like, for me, like, I'll have conversations with people sometimes, because I always get the question of, like, where and why do you think the way that you do? Like, where did it come from? Where did it stem? And what's funny is that for me, I cannot remember ever feeling a different way when it came to thoughts of the afterlife, thoughts of like the ethereal nature of man and woman, and like soulmates, the universe, life, the existence of life, like all those things when I was a kid, like those were at the pinnacle of my mind. They were at the forefront, like all the time. Like it was just right there. It was right at the front of my head. And I was made fun of a lot for it. I've said that before in previous videos. I was ridiculed for my creative nature. I was just looked at as just being like this weird kid. And I'm sorry, I gotta stop. Like, just check that out. This is gorgeous. That's just gorgeous. Anyway, so and innately I knew, at my youth, and ask a child this sometimes. Like, ask a 2-year-old, ask a 3-year-old, ask a 4-year-old, ask a 5-year-old. Ask them what the meaning of life is. You'll be really surprised at what the answer is. You'll be really, really surprised, because a majority of them, if not all of them, if they haven't been emotionally damaged yet or received any, breakdowns in their condition, they'll be able to be very receptive to it, and they'll know exactly what it is. And I was like that whenever I was younger, and then through society, through growing up, through going to school, through doing all these things, I had more and more facades being put in front of me of other people's expectations, other people's things, other person's perspective, other person's perspective, other person's perspective, all these other people, rather than myself, connecting with God, staying true to what love and truth are, and being connected. And it really threw me astray, and I've been really grateful that over these last couple of months, and mainly I'd have to say since November of last year, I've kind of had an awakening, which has been a blessing in disguise. I've hurt because of it. I've had pain because of it, both physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. But I know that through pain is growth, and it may be some people listening thinking well, I'm in pain all the time, and I don't know really what to do with it. I have family members that have gone through that. I myself have gone through that. All of trying to connect with the external and try and take this pill, take this supplement, do this, do that, all of that external stuff never really solved the issue. It would put a band-aid on it, and sometimes you got to do that. I'll admit, I take supplements. I will do the right regimen of proper workout, etc. I'm not immune to that sort of sense, but connecting with your feeling is what will truly heal all of the pains in your life. And it's difficult because this day of age, even with technology, even with the way that we connect immediately with somebody, to have immediate empathy, immediate connection, immediate love, immediate truth without having any judgment towards an individual is extremely difficult if you're not connected, not in tune, and not in alignment. And I have been at fault of this for a majority of my life, where I'll walk into a room and I will look at a group of people or a person, and because they look a certain way, I'll automatically judge them on what their character is, what their lifestyle is like, what's in their bank account, and where they're gonna, which car is theirs. All these things go in my head. That's not actually me. That's a bunch of damage that was put upon me of expectations from society, of building up this facade of you need to have a good job, you need to have a good career in the profession that you're pursuing, you need to be liked by every person, blah blah blah, expectation upon expectation upon expectation, rather than wake up, you're breathing, there you go, step forward, that should be all it is. Wait, it's time to go to bed, wake up, I'm breathing again, and just work on yourself, work on the things that you need to work on to grow, to be a better person, to help yourself and to help another person and to help humanity. We overlook some of the most simplistic things in our life, and if people would just take the time to reflect back and not try to automatically come up with an answer, not be like, oh, I know why this happened when I was a kid. It was because of this person, and that person. They're what did that to me. That's why I have this perspective. That's why I think this way, because this person made me think this way. Well, if that's the case and you're still thinking that same way because of somebody that did something to you 40 plus freaking years ago, well, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. You're still being affected by that person because you're using that as the excuse for your actions. You're giving somebody power over you by saying that somebody else is what caused you that way. If you come to the realization in that light that, yeah, you may have been affected by somebody from your past, whether it be a family member, a friend, a teacher, whatever, but you re-feel the interaction, you reconnect with the interaction that started it all for you at that stem moment, and there will be hundreds of thousands of those moments throughout your life that you have to go back and recall and push through and sincerely feel them again and work through them. There are emotions from my past and instigations from my past that I feel like I've worked through. I feel like I've processed them. I feel like, you know what? I'm good. Let's do this. Like I'm good. I can hit it with the best of them. And then something will come up, trigger it, and I'll go right back to that initial feeling of what it was before. Sure enough, I didn't work through it. Because if I had worked through it, it wouldn't have come up again. And then, even if it did come up again, it meant that I only worked through it to a certain level. I didn't fully work through it. So it's funny how it's like the pressures of society, family, friends, your own psyche, those have such a hard effect on the soul in growing, in trusting, in love and truth, and in, humility, and because all you have to do is connect with the feeling and you'll understand. And what's funny is, like, it can be intellectualized, but the intellectualization of it actually, pardon my language, screws it up. Like, it messes it up completely. When you intellectualize the concept of it and you try to, mark it down and like structure it and give it a formulation, and then, you add to it, it just totally waters it down. Because then you're thinking of it from an analytical perspective, and you need to have scientific method and analysis to then affirm or prove that it works. When if you throw a raw piece of meat at a lion and it's hungry, because you know it's hungry, you can see it's ravaged, and you want it, and it's going to eat something, do you need to have an analytical process when you throw that meat to make sure that the lion eats it? Like, do you really do? Or can you toss the meat and the lion eats it and you feel that? It's that sort of thing. Like quite literally, like when you stub your toe, do you have to break down the problem as to why you stubbed your toe and the reason that the pain is firing from your toe all the way through your nervous system into your brain, telling your brain, oh, that's pain, and then sending it back down every single time you stub your toe or hit your knee? Like, do you have to recall the process through the analysis of all of those things? Do you see how long the process would be if every single interaction you ever had, every interaction is all analytical, all scientific, all method-based, and you have to go through a process each time you do it, and you have to, articulate the process? That would be really draining. It'd be really tiring. Like, extremely draining, extremely tiring. The beauty of, like, connecting direct with the emotion is that you don't have to write any of that shit down. You can, as like a side note, if you want, if you so desire it, but in the long run, you really don't. You sit with it, you saturate with it, you reconnect with it, and majority of the time, if you're secure within yourself and you know who you are, you'll allow yourself to get angry, you'll allow yourself to grieve and cry and feel the pain that you felt when you were a child, or feel the pain that you might have felt the other day from treating somebody wrong, or feel sadness for a person that you love, or for somebody you don't even know, and really connect with that. It's not about making yourself a martyr. It's not about everybody wants to put this wishy-washy, the idealist mindset and mind frame on top of it, and add all this stuff and saturate it all. I really wish that, and I need to work on it myself as I say this out loud, I really wish that people could just watch things and find the good in it. Watch everything, find the good in it. And then you get people saying, well, what about murder? What about this? What about all the other pains? It's so simplistic, yet it's so complicated at the same time. Murder is never right. Never. It's never right. No justification for it, even in defense. I mean, like, you can resonate on that if you connect with it. Oh, what about war? What about this? What about that? Like, I grew up in a military family. Like, my grandfather served, my great-grandfather served, my grandfather on my mother's side served. I remember, like, the regimentation of it. I've got such respect for people in the military. I have friends that are in the military. I have friends that are retired from the military. Like, and I have a majority of them affirm for me that there's pain. There's pain from going through that trauma. Now, just because you went through that trauma, it doesn't mean that you can't grow and change from old ways and patterns and methods. Everybody can grow and change. And I mean, every single person can grow and change. Like, you have to have the humility, though, to really put your frickin' life on the chalkboard and pinpoint all the spots where you had doubts, all the spots where you had fears, all the spots where you had anger, and break it down bit by bit. Because if you don't do it now, you'll have to do it some other time. And it's better that you just do it now. That's what I've come to experience. Because every single time I work on these things in life, just life in general, whatever's coming my way, something opens up. Something opens up. And I can't explain it. I don't know why. It just happens. Like, I'll release a bunch of angst, anxiety, pain, fear, trauma, whatever, emotion, and then sure enough, like, just like that, I'll get a phone call from somebody that might have an opportunity for a job, or somebody I was thinking about when I was processing calls me up. We have coffee, we chat, we rekindle. I tell them about my experience. They in themselves had their own similar experience, identical to mine, like, but in their own way. And things align. You know, like, the laws of the universe are so simplistic yet so complicated at the same time. The simplicity of it is that you could innately understand it without having to actually know the science and the math behind it, because you connect with the feeling of it. Now, it may be hard for some people to grasp, but the biggest one that people want to talk about is the law of attraction. Now, you know, law of attraction, law of reciprocation, law of polarity, law of gender, law of, like, so many, law of duality. There's so many different laws. Law of attraction being, you know, a foundational point. Oh, wow, I got a nice little bike coming by. Nice. Whim. Law of attraction being the foundational one, but most people want to put a layer of, okay, well, I want X, and since I want X, I'm going to just put out to the universe and to God that this is what I want, and do that. And it's a lot more than just that, because there are other laws surrounding the law of attraction that then enable or deny what you're attracting, because it's not just as simple as just like throwing out the fishing pole and catching what you want. And for anyone who's been working with the law of attraction, they understand that. You know, they understand the tools in which it takes to actually make it come to fruition. Now, what's funny is, in modern times, more people are receptive to a new age philosophical approach of spirituality and science than a majority of old religion. Now, I find that, like, both perplexing yet odd, and also at the same time somewhat, what's the proper word that I could find? Like, ironic, really, I guess would be a good word for it. Because if you take that new perspective, right? A new, in a sense, people want to say new age, but I don't want to associate it with that. But if you take a new open perspective and reread a bunch of the different theological texts historically, and I mean texts, not just a text, texts, you will start seeing a pattern of certain information that's been passed down through all those texts. Well, that pattern is like, for the most part, a natural love pattern of things being said, where they were tapping in on certain moments with like glimpses of divinity in there, like just divine presence. And those pieces meld together, and it's those melding pieces that where truth lies. And that's what people seem to misinterpret by saying, oh, it's either this or it's this. Yeah, there is ultimate truth. There is ultimate truth. Does gravity exist? Yes, it does. Can you bend the will of gravity? Well, if you know the other laws, yeah, you can. You can manipulate the law. But the law still exists. It's an ultimate truth. The law itself, creating gravity, exists. If you use simple analogies, you can affirm ultimate truth, but you have to be very open about it. Because the moment you want to get into the idiosyncrasies of the complexities of the universe, your own mind can give you so many different ways and reasons to interwarp and interlink and just be like, no, totally BS, because string theory and quantum theory and metaphysics theory and all this other stuff. Yeah, the quantum field exists, metaphysics exists, energy field, all that. Like, you can manifest from the field to manifestation form. That's fine. It's a longer process. You can channel those things. You can indeed, connect with all of it. You can indeed connect with all of it. But in the end, I mean, like, why not just go straight to the source? It's frustrating sometimes. Like, sometimes I'm spot on, and I know it, and I'm there, and my law of attraction is like on, and then there's law of reciprocation, like just. And other times it's off. Like, when it's off, it doesn't feel good. Like, it really doesn't fit or resonate at all. It really is frustrating. It's very painful. It's extremely painful, because when you're on, when you're in flow, when you've got the right process. You innately know it, and time just seems to go by. Time just seems to float. So my suggestion is, like, try this experiment of like connecting with your emotions just for the day. Like, don't act on the emotion. Don't react to the stimulus. Just connect with it. Wholeheartedly connect with it. If you're around people in a public place and you feel really, really angry, rather than just like subside the anger, like, go somewhere quiet real quick and like release the anger just ever so briefly, but do it in a way of, like, that you're trying to connect with it to then feel something afterwards. Don't do it in a continuation towards the individual or the circumstance that's in front of you. Like, know that it's a tool just to get you to learn, to get you to grow, to get, like, it's all a learning tool. And again, I also suggest, like, going into some sort of creative endeavor, like some sort of creative process. Any creative endeavor will trigger your empathy and emotions to connect with other people. Like, any art, whether it be painting, sculpting, like, just any art that you can think of, like music, dance, acting, martial arts, like, all of it. all of it at the base level, if you really connect with the art in the creative sense, you will connect with other people, and that will also aid in you connecting to yourself. So guys, if you enjoyed the video, I appreciate you taking the time with me. Peace, love, and happiness to everybody. If you like it, like the video, subscribe, send it to friends. As I mentioned before, I'm going to continue doing this more and more this year, just because these things are bottled up inside and you got to release them regardless of what happens. And that's something I pose to you too, is just regardless of what people think and feel, like, always record. If I had one message on a gravestone of mine, it would be always record. So take care. Talk to you soon.